Good morning, everybody. Okay, it's Friday. It's not Friday the 13th, but it's close enough, right? So, well, today, unfortunately, because of scheduling, we're only doing this on Zoom and we're not able to meet person to person. So, thank you for technology, right? So, today we're going to continue our conversation in regards to prospecting. More importantly, I want to discuss about lead follow up. What happens when we meet somebody, right? As we've been talking about this week, from door knocking, face to face marketing to calling our COIs, and then yesterday open houses, right? So we will meet a lot of people through different networking events, parties, at Costco, right? We have to make connections somehow, right? And in making connections, it's just finding commonality. As I said before, what's more important, likability or trust, right? Likability is probably more important in the beginning because that's when do they feel that you're approachable? Do you have a smile? Do you look friendly, right? All of those things, because if they're not comfortable talking to you, right, because if a stranger comes in your open house or you meet them at Costco or Safeway, you know how can you actually start a conversation? A lot of people, when you approach them, they're usually thinking like, hey, why is this person talking to me? What do they want? Right? Remember, we don't want anything. We're trying to see how we can help them. And when we're asking them about, hey, how do you cook that ribeye? Or how do you like that scooter? Or how do you like that bench? It's not about us. It's about their experience with it. Right. So just remember that. Okay. It's all about them. Right. So now we met somebody today. So again, what do you do tomorrow? Basically, it's um, tomorrow they get a thank you card, right? It was a special card, right? It was a pleasure meeting you, Michelle, at the Intero event. I look forward to helping you in the future. Or hey, let's refer our clients to each other. If you have clients in California, let me know, right? Again, it depends, right? We will meet different people, realtors and what have you, right? So in this case, it's about hey, um, you know, once I meet you tomorrow, you get a. It was a pleasure meeting you within the first 3 to 5 days. Okay, it doesn't have to be tomorrow because sometimes we get busy. It's a weekend, right? So now we ask them, hey, or we send that note in the Intero note card, right? Some sort of note card that says it was a pleasure meeting you, right? So that way you can build on that conversation. It was a pleasure meeting you at the door, or something like that. If you ever need help on what to say on a thank you card, I do a class on that specifically on what do you say on a thank you card. But it's pretty simple. It's bring the conversation back and then say a couple words and then of course close it. I look forward to helping you in all your real estate needs in the future. All right. Something like that. It's very easy. For instance, if I went to Kristen's house yesterday for a listing appointment, say, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you and your husband, right? Yeah. Or whatever the greeting is, it's up to you, right? And then say, hey, I look forward to helping you sell your property. Please call me when you're ready to put the home on the market. Now they may say we're interviewing three other agents. It's the same message, right? I look forward to helping you. Call me when you're ready to put the home on the market. Call me when you're ready to hire me, right? These are what we call future pacing. These are more assumptive language, right? So these are selling skills. So again, the way we use our words can help communicate our message, right? So that thank you card to me is very important. It builds on that meeting from yesterday, right? And again, you put two or three business cards in a note card, you're good to go, right? So now, what do you do, right? What if they say, call me next year, call me 2 years from now? We're not ready, right? What do you do? So I created this simple system, right? We all heard about put your put the names and phone numbers on some sort of database, a CRM, right? Your phone, put their information in there. Here's the thing with this. Here's the secret to a CRM or a database is how can you be reminded? Let's say I met everybody here. There's 11 of you guys here on the call, and you all have different buying and selling plans. How can I remember that Deborah's ready in 6 months? Layla says, hey, I have a potential referral for you. Teresa says, hey, I'm going to die here. Charlene says, I'm going to retire here. Eugenio says, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? How will I remember all those notes? Well, that's where your database system comes in. And on your database system, you should have something that says, when's your next call date? Okay. When I use Top Producer, and you can trick your other CRMs to do this, it's a next activity, right? So I have to be reminded. I have reminders on when people's birthdays are, right? Once I know your birthday, it's in here, right? So that way, when on the morning or the night before, if it's important enough, I will know that date, right? It will remind me, oh, it's Vika's birthday tomorrow, right? Like I told you guys, my wedding anniversary, right? I have a 6 month, a 3 month, a 1 month, a 1 week, and a next the day before alarm on my phone, right? And 1 year I still forgot it, right? Or at least that day, right? Because I was surprising my wife, and we got too busy, and I didn't say happy anniversary until the evening, right? Because I was trying to surprise her. But anyways, you got to have reminders for yourself, right? Now, if you only have like one or two, three, four, five clients, and you don't have enough people in your database yet, it's easier to remember. But as you meet people, remember we're meeting 5 to 10 new people that we need to put in our database every single day. See, my goal was to get to 500 in 1 month, my first month in the business. So I was talking to a lot of people. Now, some of them, most of them, were just what I call, okay, here's the thing. Once, okay, so now you have the next call date, right? Second, you need to figure out what was the source of that business so you can track it and see what's working for you. Was there referral, door knock, cold call, right? What happened? Open house, right? And then, of course, contact type. You have are they buyer, seller, investor with properties, right? Um, there's different types that I use on my database. Okay, so figure out your database, and then this is where the important part is what type of client are they? Some people say ABC client, right, or ABCD. D is for delete, right? It's up to you how you want to label your clients. The way I label my clients is how soon do they want to sell, right? So it was initially three. Okay, it was hot, warm, cold, right? So hot is 1 to 6 months. If they say call me, I'm really ready, next spring or or this summer, somewhere around 1 to 6 months. These are not exact numbers. Okay. Now, someone asked me, what about 30 days or less? That's what I call fire. So there's 5 levels on my chart. Number one is fire, which just means it's anytime. Within the next 30 days, we're gonna get into contract. We're ready to look. They're getting pre-approved. They're ready to go. Okay. It's like anytime. Okay, that's 30 days. So that's what I call fire. These are the ones that's on my phone, on my favorites. Okay. Number two is what we call hot, 1 to 6 months typically. Now, someone said, what if it's 7 months, 8 months? You can put it there. It's up to you, right? So label it however you're going to label it, right? So two is hot, three is warm, which is typically 6 to 24 months, okay? Somewhere in there, okay? 24, 30, 30, 36 months, somewhere in there, right? They're warm. And then, of course, there's cold. Cold are typically someone that says, I don't know, I have no plans, right? This is basically 2 years and up, 24 months and up, somewhere in there, okay? Now, some people may say, that's a lot to keep track. This is my system. Okay. It's up to you how you're going to remember people. Because if at some point UV, or Dulat has 500 names. Remember I told you guys yesterday, your homework or the day before was to start making a list of people you know. Right? Like if I throw you a party, how many people can I invite from your database, from your phone? Do you have their names, phone numbers, email, and addresses? How many of those do you have? Okay. You guys can start putting numbers on the chat. Tell me how many you have, or how many people in your database. Right. This is not your farm. Right. These are people you actually spoke to. They said, hey, yeah, keep in touch. Right. How many people do you have? Because if you only have like 10 or 20, then you don't need a database. Right. But at the minimum, if you have, like I'm somewhere between 8 to 1,000 usually, and because you remove, add, right? About 500 of those are basically the same because those are past clients, relatives, friends and family, right? These are constant. But there's some people out there that are called leads. These are people that may or may not do business with me, right? So, for instance, a past client is always warm to me, okay, because the way they're receiving my marketing materials is a certain way. So this is for contacting, okay. And then there's what I call ICE, which is level 5. Some people call that level D, delete them. See, once I have your phone number, right, address, email, and all that, right, especially with email these days, right, you'll never leave my system unless you unsubscribe or you tell me, Greg, stop sending me this stuff, right? Rare that does that happen to me because the information I typically try to send, especially by text or calling, is pretty informative in my opinion, or at least it's useful. The emails, I don't know how to track that. Some of them it's being sent. I don't know if they're reading them. To me, email is just extra for those ice. Okay. So ice, I'm not mailing. I'm only mailing to the ones that are fire, hot, warm, cold. Okay. Got it? Okay. So everybody is getting those mailers, right? Remember I said 8 to 1,200. The 2 to 300 of those people are called ice. These are the ones who came to my open house. Sometime in the past. I just keep calling them like quarterly just to see if they're still alive, right? And once in a while, I'll pop one of those, and we're good. But I haven't really spent anything on them. It's just a simple call and email, right? Okay, like I said, I've met people years later, and they still haven't bought, right? And I don't want to be mailing to them unless they said, "Yeah, I'd love to receive it," or "I'd love to keep in touch." And then on my quarterly calls, every 45-day contact by text, right? It's a good conversation where I can see that, hey, there's a good potential that they're going to use me, meaning I will be their realtor, right? Not just use me, so to speak, right? So that's what you want. Okay, so remember 5 levels: fire, hot, warm, cold, fire, and ice, right? Okay, 5 levels. Okay, there's different. And again, when you guys watch this recording again, you'll know more about that. So what do you do? Right, everybody gets a quarterly call minimum. Right. Okay. The ones on fire, these are like the any day now, right? You're usually calling or texting them, you know, every 1 to 3 days typically. It's like, hey, did you call the loan officer? Or I would call the loan officer, hey, did you talk to Kristen yet? Did you get all her documents? When can you get the approval, right? And then I would call, hey, Kristen, thanks for talking, to Rohit about your loan. He's working on it. Please, get the documents to him, right? So that's the conversations we have. It's not about, hey, I got a couple more properties. It's got to be more than that all the time, right? And remember, they're on fire. So that means if they're buyers, they're not going to mind. It's hey, I got a couple more properties. Usually they're on Real Scout, right? If they're a buyer, and they're receiving those listings, and then we're keeping track of them, right? So on fire ones, and now if it's a seller, right? If it's a seller, what are you sending them? What are you calling them? Yeah, you're calling them more often than every 45 to 90 days, right? Again, you have to judge this. And this is where the database system comes in. If you need to have a reminder system, right? You can put an appointment on your phone to call, Ranjani or something. But once the time comes along, see, with top producer, I have to do something with that appointment. Either I call her or I change the date to something in the future, right? Because every day I get a list of people to call. And some of them I don't feel like calling. I just say, I'll call them next week, right? Or I just leave it there. If I don't make a change today, tomorrow that same person shows up on my calls to make. And if I don't do it tomorrow, it builds up to Sunday, and then it builds up to Monday. To where at some point I have like 60 calls. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I can just easily, I don't want to call. But it's easy for me just to pick up the phone, right? Simple phone call. And again, these are ones that if they're ready, it's just like, hey, just want to touch base, just a reminder, about the spring forward, right? The 1 hour this week, right? What's the next holiday coming up? Anyone? Next week?
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patty's, right? So start creating that flyer, right? And what is St. Patty's Day, right? What's St. Patrick's Day? What is that all about, right? Uh, you know, and ask them, hey, you guys any plans for a St. Patrick's weekend? Yeah, St. Patrick's Day weekend, right? That could be your messaging next week, right? Or just hey, reminder to wear green this week, right? Or whatever that message is, right? So you have to create that, okay? And if you're putting out flyers next week, maybe that could take up 1/4, 1/5 of your flyer, right? Happy, about St. Patrick's Day, right? Or what does that really mean, right? Um, Again, your messaging is going to be up to you, right? Okay, like I'm a Catholic, so we had Ash Wednesday, right? Last past Wednesday, right? Okay, because the start of Lent. Yeah. So I was messaging people, hey, make sure you go to church today, right? It's Ash Wednesday, right? That was my messaging Wednesday morning, right? Um, and then of course, there's other things you can do. Okay, like I said, you guys have different holidays, different things that you guys celebrate. Just remind people about it, right? Okay, all right. So, um, so everybody's getting a monthly newsletter, right? Now, if you're cold, right? Cold are typically, these are my past clients. They're receiving, you know, um, flyers and all that, right? Okay, or the newsletter every single month. The difference between the fire, hot, cold, warm, right, on ice, is that I'm either sending something to them, or now is how often do I call them, right? So the ones, remember, hot, you're getting a call every 2 to 3 weeks, right? Warm, you're probably getting a call somewhere around once every 45 to 60 days. Okay. And you have to judge that, right? Because if they say, oh, yeah, send me some information, you know, I'm gonna send that information tomorrow. I'm not gonna wait till 2 quarters from now to call them. I'm gonna call them like the following week just to see if they received it, right? Okay. Yeah. So just make sure that you know what happens to that person, because what you don't want to do is, or what you don't want to happen is, if I happen to call Layla, next week, and she said, "Oh, I already listed," then I gotta know, where did I go wrong, right? Was I not top of mind, or did Larry happen to door knock her house that day, right? That happens. Okay, that will happen when you have a lead, and next thing poof, they went with someone else for some reason. You need to find out why that is. Okay, was it a lack of follow up, or is just some fluky thing? Okay, again, as I shared with you guys, before, my COIs is pretty robust. I got them pretty much in control, meaning they know who I am. That's what you want, right? You want to, just like we talk about advertising, right? You want to own part of their brain. When they think real estate, they're thinking, Dulot, right? They're thinking Amal, right? They're thinking UV, right? You want them to think real estate, think Deborah, think real estate, think Michelle, right? That's what you want, right? So that was one of my messaging one at one time, right? Basically, Greg, your real estate resource, right? You know, Greg stands for, right? Greg, real estate guru, right? Greg, real estate genius. I used that in my marketing before, my name, right? Again, go with your real estate guru, Greg, right? You know, that's how it spells, right? Go, right? So again, it's up to you how you want to use that in your marketing. Just like some of you guys know Bo Jackson before, right? There was a lot of marketing regarding Bo Jackson. He was a superstar, athlete, right? You know, Bo knows baseball, Bo knows, basketball, Bo knows everything, right? Bo knows, football. But Bo don't know real estate. Greg does. Call the real estate expert, Greg, right? I mean, you watch TV, you follow these things, right? Right? Thinking of selling, just do it. Call Greg today. I mean, you people have paid a lot to create that messaging. So piggyback on it. Nike's not gonna go after me, right? I hope not, right? But again, it's that. It's just do it, right? Um, you know, Thinking of putting off buying, just do it. Buy now. Could be that, right? So again, um, what messaging do you want in your marketing pieces? Create a slogan, right? So the slogan is important because that's your tagline, right? So think about that. So any questions so far? Regards to lead follow up, what to do, right? You guys had homework, right? Remember I told you guys you need to um, sign up for a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, right? Your homework was the TPMCO, right? And then now we have the online, newsletter that Alfredo has put together, right? So again, we have things in the office that you can use as far as emails, right? We can do your staff, right? Once you put it into the CRM, either Follow Up Boss or Rev, they can run it for you. You just got to put in the name and email address, and they can do the Altos research for you, right? The neighborhood news. So again, there should never be a time where you don't know what to do with your clients, right? Learn the tools that we have, right? What they are, and then ask the staff, hey, how do I use this? Or ask one of your leadership team, right? Ask me, ask your manager, and see how they're using. Ask the agents, what are they doing? Okay, because what you want to do is when you go to a family party, they're the one asking you about, hey, how's the real estate market? Okay. When I go to an event, usually they're asking me about real estate before I even bring it up, because they know what I do is through the marketing, right? So I haven't seen someone for 3 to 6 months a year. They always ask me, how's real estate? Right? That's what you want. You want to own their real estate brain, and that's you. Because remember, they're being marketed, right? Okay. Every time I drive to across 92, right, San Mateo Bridge, I see at least 3 realtor on the big billboard, right? you know, Les Full has something about about Hayward, right? His team, and then I got Redfin there, and then I had what's the other one? Zillow, right? And of course, once in a while I'll see EXP. I mean, they're on the billboards on the freeway, right? I'm not going to compete on that level, but how many people are actually going to use them? Enough, but there's plenty of others that's going to pick a realtor based on who contacts them more often. Who do they see? Who do they like? Right? Because by having billboards, that's just creating, um, you know, name recognition. But bottom line is, have they met the people yet? The clients, the agents? Most of the time they don't. Right? So again, when you're doing farming, it's especially neighborhood farming, it's really important that they somehow see you and you do something in the community in the neighborhood, right? As I was telling a few of you guys before, do neighborhood events, right? Especially if you're like in an HOA, right? Do a cleanup, cleanup month, right? So again, find out how the trash company does their trash pickup. As far as if people have unwanted items. I've set it up where I had a Saint Vincent de Paul come to a neighborhood and pick up clothes, right? Again, different things you can do. You just have to arrange it. Now, with regards to lead follow up, it's about calling them and then having a system for them to see you without you having to call them, because now some people say, oh, I just call them, that's my lead follow-up system. That totally works. Okay, but then you have to figure out what's your messaging, right? If I'm not ready, like for instance, if your clients, right, my clients are cold, right, they just moved in last year, this month, what am I going to talk to them quarterly about? They're receiving mailers from me. Great, right? That's good. But do you have a past transaction, lead follow-up system? Like what do you do a week later, right? 30 days later, right? Because there are times where our clients don't move in immediately. They move in like 30 days later, or they have to have a contractor, they have to have, cleaning, you have to work out the rent backs and all that. How do you remember all these dates and times? And that's where we go back to your calendar, your schedule, right? You got to put in your schedule, lead follow-up time, working on your business. Remember, you cannot just be working on your business, right? You have to also be working in your business. Where do we spend most of our time? Working in our business, the day-to-day stuff. But at some point, you have to look at the future business too, right? So figure out how you're going to manage all the people you meet, right? Like some of you guys belong to networking events, or you have a big circle. Where are you going to put all those names, right? Figure that out, and then figure out a system to keep in touch. To me, the best thing I ever learned is that newsletter, monthly newsletter. Once I have their name and address, because that's what I started with in the beginning, besides their phone number, right? We didn't have email. So every time I met somebody and I got their address, I send the newsletter. And then I know for a fact half of the people in my newsletters are always going to do business with me. Now, the question is, which of the 50%? That's what you have to figure out. And that's where the calling comes in. Okay. Because I have some relatives in my newsletter system, right? I know they're not going to use me. Why do I spend money to send them a newsletter? Because I know they're going to talk to somebody possibly, or at least when I go to parties, they're going to ask me about real estate. And guess who else is listening? Those other relatives that's going to work with me. Because again, there's reasons why some people will work with you or not, right? Same thing. I have friends that are realtors, or I have several realtor friends, and we have similar friends. Same thing. Some will use them, some will work with me, right? So again, you do what you do, and then you'll see which one is really working for you. Now, there are many other things besides newsletters that we can use, right? Some people subscribe to Reminder Media, right? That costs like $5 per magazine. Some of you guys know that, right? That gets sent out, either bi-monthly or quarterly, right? That's by Risk Media. So again, you can do expensive stuff. But to me, the monthly newsletter, which roughly, let's just say it costs less than $1 per person. So budget that in, right? So can anyone, either put it on the chat or tell me how many people do you have in your database? If I was to throw you a party today, all expenses paid, right? How many people do I need to reserve space for? Anybody have a number? Anybody? No one? Only one? Only one person? Figure it out, right? Get 150, right? Yeah. Get that to 1,000 as soon as possible. Because to me, if you spend $1,000 on your business every month, just on this newsletter, right? That's 1,000 people. And if you just do 1%, that's 10 deals. So 10 deals should pay for your $12,000 yearly investment, right? But you're probably going to get more than that. So now the question, oh, Deborah says 2773, right? Okay. I bet you those 2773 are not all going to do business with Deborah. Now, what Deborah needs to do is figure out which one of those is worthy of receiving her newsletter, right? Not her entire farm, the people in her farm that she has met. That's who should be on that newsletter system. Okay, Deborah? Okay. Not the whole subdivision, just the ones that you met and you like, right? Or you could potentially convert. Because how many of you guys get junk mail at your house, right? Right. So that's wasted money. So that's why I urge you guys, you don't mail to anyone you have not met or don't plan to do business in the future, right? Okay. Even though my relatives that I think may not do business with me for whatever reason, again, that's my opinion, or that's something that they said, or it's a likelihood because they know somebody else and they talk about that agent a lot. Half of them I end up converting. Why? Because I showed them why I'm better, right? Or that agent that they knew left the business, okay, or it's not full time, right? It's okay, right? But I know my skill level, I know what I bring to the table, and I feel that, hey, I'm better. And again, the newsletter, you can sell yourself on the newsletter, your expertise. And who creates that newsletter? It's a third party company, right? So check out tpmco.com. As I said before, if you're going to join my selling skills workshop, I'm going to make certain things mandatory. And that's, if you want to be coached by me, that's okay. That's good. But, you have your manager to help you along, right? You have resources in the office, including your MITs, other agents. See what they're doing and see what you can implement into your business. Because, like I said, what works for me may or may not work for you, right? So you have to figure out what's going to work for you and what you're willing to do. Because the best type of prospecting is the one you're willing to do and support, right? So if you're not willing to do certain things, you may not want to do that. Just like I said before, you chose to become a real estate agent. Now learn what you need to do. And if you don't like those things, you need to figure it out. Okay. Because maybe real estate is not for you, or you just need to hire staff to do the things you don't like. Right. Okay. Because everything in real estate can be delegated except the face-to-face communication with the clients. Okay. The communication has to be done by you. Okay. You have to call your clients for those lead follow-up, right? You have to call them to set up an appointment, right? And again, the message is just, hey, when you're ready, I'm here. And then remember, personal first, social second, business third. So let me look at the chat. So anything interesting in the chat? Okay. Perhaps relative. Okay. So anything else that you guys want to talk about before we wrap up and send you off to this weekend? It's going to be a nice weekend. It's a good time to do open houses, prospecting for open houses, right? It's a good time to be calling people. And again, it's just remind them. So the text, right? Hi there. Just a reminder, set your clocks forward 1 hour Saturday night. Call me for any questions. Greg, right? Or Greg Nasol, Intero Real Estate, 510-475-7500. It's up to you. What messaging you want to do, right? It's simple as there. If you want to, like I told you guys, when you copy and paste the hi there, and then you can add hi Michelle later, okay? Because sometimes I've done it where I copied, with the name and it gets sent and you can't bring it back, okay? So again, it's hi there, just a reminder, set your clock forward, Saturday night, call me for any questions. Now, why did I put call me for any questions? That's a standard closing I have. Call me anytime, reach out anytime. If some of you guys, ever, communicate with me by text, I typically put that some messaging like that, right? Like reach out anytime, call me anytime, right? Okay. That's what you want. Questions, Vikas or anybody?
Yeah, question, Greg, maybe for the next meeting, But you mentioned about flyers. In flyers, typically one of the things we should all be having, like, ask me why, ask me how.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I know we talked about the tax benefits, we talk about the complimentary service. I just wanted a little bit more in detail on that one. What are the additional talking points we
All right.
can have?
I'll give you guys some headlines next week. All right, that I've used. Okay. And then I'm gonna leave it up to you to learn Canva or some sort of publishing. Again, you have your interior design studio, you can add that, right?
Yeah.
To me, I have, like I said, there's a part in my flyers that says ask me or did you know, right? Thinking about right different messaging. So again, whenever you create a flyer, have a headline, couple bullet points, and a call to action. The call to action is very important. And that's why to me, don't, if you're gonna tell a story, right, give a synopsis of it in like, 3 to 5 sentences, right? So you need to tease them, right? You know, so that's what you want. You need to find your flyers need to be teasers to where they call me for the full report, call me for the full market analysis, call me for this, right? Okay, so I'll do that for you, Vikas, and everybody else. So, anybody else have any specific questions? Okay, let me hit that.
Hello, Greg. This is Sonia.